It seems like every day we're getting more information about the novelization of the rise of Palpatine. And every day it keeps getting worse and worse and worse for the rise of Palpatine and also the legacy of Kathleen Kennedy. Everything that's coming out in this book proves that they did not have a plan for this movie. It keeps getting worse day by day. We find out that Emperor Palpatine came back in the book because he was essentially a clone, and the Sith Eternals, they used some Sith magic or whatever and put him in the body, something like that. It's kind of ridiculous if you ask me. And of course, none of this was explained in the movie. A major plot point in the movie was not explained. So even Kylo Ren said, well, you're dead. How'd you come back or something like that? And all they could do was pull out a line from Revenge of the Sith. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. How original. Nothing was explained besides that. But you know what? We're so greedy, we're going to make you spend additional money so we can explain everything to you. And the everything ends up retconning its own movie. Palpatine in The Rise of Palpatine was not Palpatine. He was a clone. And he's also Rey's grandfather. Well, if that bit of information was going to be the highlight of the day, what we're about to talk about now is about to say, hold my beer. Because Rey's father, his origins, is now revealed in the book. Now, they didn't explain this in the movie because they don't have time for that. Of course not. But now we find out that Palpatine's son technically really isn't his son. People were kind of wondering who was Palpatine actually getting down with. Apparently, he wasn't getting down with anybody. Palpatine's son is nothing more than a failed clone of Palpatine. So they went the Jango Fett route, with Boba Fett and, the clone troopers from the prequels. That's who he was. He was nothing more than a failed clone. So we find out about this through Screen Rant here, and there's a little clip of the article here. I'm going to read it to you right now. It says, during the scene in The Rise of Skywalker novelization, when Rey is feigning taking part in the Sith ritual on Exegol to trick Palpatine, right before she passes the lightsaber to Ben, she has visions of her grandfather's past. This passage in the book reveals after Return of the Jedi, Palpatine thrusts his consciousness into a clone body. However, the transfer was imperfect, and members of the Sith Eternal worked tirelessly to engineer a new vessel for Palpatine's essence. One of these attempts is described as a useless, powerless failure who was a not quite identical clone. While his body wasn't fit to house Palpatine's power, it was still able to live and eventually became Rey's father. So this clone had a conscience. It didn't want to follow the path of Palpatine or whatever. All of the clones, even in the Clone Wars, they're all individuals. They're not just like Jango Fett or anything like that. So essentially what they're saying in the book is now that they're retconning Return of the Jedi, Palpatine, technically reading this anyway, didn't die. He transferred his consciousness into a new vessel. So Anakin's sacrifice was really all for nothing. Return of the Jedi is now ruined based on this. Because now Rey is the one to actually destroy Palpatine. Now, is he permanently destroyed? We have no idea. If he was able to jump from his original body into a new one, what's to say he can't do it again? And maybe they're going to milk this for everything that it's worth. They have destroyed my favorite character in all of Star Wars. They made his son a useless clone. So essentially, I guess technically, they said he wasn't quite identical. I don't know how that happened. I don't understand how he was a failed clone per se. I really don't. Of course, I'm just reading a little passage here. You would actually have to read a book. But here's the thing. Marianne Brandon, who was the editor on The Rise of Palpatine, said that they had cut additional scenes of Palpatine's backstory to condense the movie. Of course they did. The most critical information about Palpatine in the movie they cut out to condense the film. They couldn't find any other parts to actually cut out the film, because watching that movie, there was a whole lot that they could have cut out. But the main essential stuff in the movie, they cut out. Palpatine's back. How's he back? We're not going to tell you in the movie. Palpatine's son is a clone. We're not going to tell you that in the movie. These are the failures of Kathleen Kennedy. This keeps getting worse day by day, and I'm pretty sure as we find out more about the movie from the book, it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. We may actually find out more retcons about the OT and the prequels. I wouldn't be surprised. We already have one retcon of Return of the Jedi, with Palpatine transferring his conscience after he was thrown down that shaft by Vader. So Vader died, Palpatine lived. I just don't get this failure. I don't get this. How is it that Kathleen Kennedy still has a job today? All of this is a fireable offense. And I think it's pretty clear that J.J. Abrams and company probably really didn't have any true creative control on this movie. Because as long as J.J. Abrams has been in Hollywood making movies, he can't be this incompetent. He can't be this incompetent. I know J.J. Abrams has to be somewhat smart. Bob Iger allowed this to happen. How did he allow this to happen? Clean house at Lucasfilm. This is epically bad. There's no excuse for cutting out the main plot points, and they're just going to reduce Palpatine's son to a clone. So essentially, technically, I guess, Rey is technically Palpatine's daughter. I mean, we're talking about the cloning process or whatever. So I'm willing to bet Palpatine's a smart guy. He probably foresaw himself getting defeated by Rey. So probably he just let it happen, and he probably just jumped ship to another failed clone body. So we'll never get any resolution to Palpatine going forward, because essentially what Disney Star Wars has done, they have made Emperor Palpatine just so overly powerful and so overly smart that he can foresee everything and jump ship when things are going to get bad because he can see the future. This is bad, guys. This is so horrible. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Emperor Palpatine's son is nothing more than a failed clone of Palpatine. Of course, they couldn't explain this in the movie. This is not good. This whole thing is a dumpster fire. So guys, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. If you're new here to the channel, please hit subscribe to catch future videos from me, and we will catch you on the next video. John Matrixx, out.